My name is Shenzhan Liao. I'm in charge of education at China Institute and also the hostess of Lunch and Learn, 午间中文. This is a monthly program, 1 hour from 12 o'clock to 1 o'clock. It's Lunch and Learn, 午间中文, lunch, but it's a lunch hour. Well, you can have lunch while you're in front of your screen. I hope we can actually do Lunch and Learn with lunch on site one day. But I know we have a lot of friends actually out of New York. So this program remains to be online since spring 2020. Yeah, it's been a great journey with everyone. I'm here with my colleague Yuanchong.
嗨，我在这儿，大家好，欢迎来到午间中文。
Yeah, he's sitting in another office. We're both at China Institute. I'm sitting in the library here. So you feel free to turn on your camera, but I would request if you could keep your mic muted during the presentation so that we don't have the echo back and forth. We are going to have read aloud of a selected poem. So you may sort of like following me, but you will be joining the read aloud. At that point, some of you may choose to turn on the mic or not. We will see. Sometimes, well, the feedback is not that bad. And it's always good for me to hear your pronunciation if there is a need to repeat. But we will see how the technology works. And as usual, we will get to write one character towards the end of the session. So if you have a pen or pencil and have a piece of paper ready, it doesn't matter. It does not have to be a brush for like calligraphy, but we just get to the writing part a little bit. All right, so as some of you may know, for this season started in September, the theme of all the poems we select is I, to love. We have learned 2 poems. You have the recording on China Institute's website and YouTube channel. So you may want to go back and review those. But today, I want to say we cannot complete the season without Li Qingzhao, one of the greatest poets from the end of 11th and early 12th century. And she is also, when we are talking about female poets in China, and she's often the one that will be referred. She's a great poet regardless, but I just also feel we have to include her as well. The topic, well, we all need to be inclusive from different voices. It's not our first time looking at Li Qingzhao's poems. In fact, in spring 2020, we have learned, some of you started actually since 2020 with us. So you probably remember, we learned 2 poems, Wu Linchun and Ru Mengling by Li Qingzhao. Lin Laoshi is just posted the links in the chat box. So if you want to take a look later, you can look into that. We will briefly review Li Qingzhao's life and her time, the Song Dynasty at the time of 11th and early 12th century. But first, let's take a look at the poem. I will share my screen and we will get to the PowerPoint. This is the poem we are reading. And let me get to this. So, 一剪梅. That's the tune of the poem that the poem is written into. We will talk a little bit more about that, but you will see Li Qingzhao. Her name is here from late 11th to early 12th century. And by the way, if you have any questions, feel free to use the chat box. We will monitor that. And we selected a translation by the Chinese translator Xu Yuanchong, as we are not going to read every or look into the explanation too closely due to the time. The English translation can serve as a reference. So here we have the entire poem. For a long time, we've been focused on the Tang classical poems that usually quite short. We have quatrains with 4 lines and regulated verses with 8 lines, either 5 or 7 characters per line, fixed. So you will see this is the first time in a long time that we are looking into this form of classical Chinese poetry, 词. So there is some obvious difference, of 词 compared to 诗, the other forms we have read. But I will read the entire poem. You can follow me, but this time it's going to be a little bit fast just to get a sense of the pronunciation, the rhythm, the rhyme. And later we will do that together, word by word, and allow time to pause and to repeat. All right, so I will start from the top. 一剪梅，红藕香残玉簟秋。轻解罗裳，独上兰舟。云中谁寄锦书来？雁自回时，月满西楼。花自飘零，水自流。一种相思，两处闲愁。此情无计可消除，才下眉头，却上心头。So there are some obvious differences of this form compared to the quatrains and the regulated verses we have been reading. So anybody want to share? You can unmute yourself and just share.
Well, it's certainly longer, and the pattern of the number of, not just the number of lines, but also the number of characters in each line.
Exactly. Yeah, it's definitely longer, and there's the irregular number of characters in each line. Yeah, thanks, Eric. Anyone else? Yeah, that's the most observable difference, I would say, when you look at this. And obviously, wow, there are other more related to the to understand more in depth the Chinese characters, the meaning of it. But yeah, that's even you just don't know exactly each word. By looking at this, you will see this is a very different form. Instead of fixed number of characters each line, you have different numbers for each line, and the rhyme, it's also feels differently when you listen to the reading of this poem. And if you look carefully, and for some of you who studied Chinese language, you may see there is more of a colloquial language being used in this lyrics or this poem. So this form, we call that 词 instead of 诗 in around this time in Song Dynasty. it's still strictly prescribed according to the tune patterns the poet chooses. For example, this poem, the tune is 一剪梅. Once Li Qingzhao chose this tune to write this poem, she had to follow a strictly prescribed pattern in terms of how many characters each line that she has to write, and the rhythm, the rhyme of each line also are fixed according to the tunes. And there are about 825 of such tunes in total. And it was said also, it was brought to China from Central Asia. Actually, many of these tunes were lost after Song Dynasty, and it's only during the rediscovery of Dunhuang that many of the tunes were resurfaced and provide some of the archaeological evidence to these tunes, and also support the theories that they may come to China from Central Asia. The irregularity may seem to be more relaxed than Tangshi, the Tang classical poetry, because it's like, wow, you get to the flexibility, choose irregular number of characters, but the poet, himself or herself, had to fill in the words according to a fixed tonal and rhyming scheme. So in fact, it is, if not more, it is at least as challenging as writing a Tang poem. And also as a poetic form, we have been really associating Shi, the classical poem, to Tang Dynasty. That's from 8th to 9th century. And then we associated this type of form more with Song Dynasty. That's Li Qingzhao's time. And that's starting from the early 11th century to the 12th. Actually, well, there's two parts that we will get into to the 13th century. So let me just quickly review as well we go over that. So there's a saying, this is a map of the Song Dynasty. This is the current territory of China, is the white area, and the two colors of the orange showing the Northern Song Dynasty from 960 to 1126, and we call that Bei Song, the Northern Song Dynasty. Kaifeng was the capital, and then after 1127, it was Nan Song, Southern Song Dynasty. You can see this lighter orange area, that's the Southern Song Dynasty, with the capital being Hangzhou. And there is a saying, I'm here quoting the author from the Anthology of Chinese Painting, Zheng Wuchang, and he said, the Song Dynasty 虽以兵弱屡受外辱，而文化则灿然可观. In translation is, the Song Dynasty was constantly under the threat and humiliation of the military force in the north, but the culture was thriving during the Song Dynasty. So generally speaking, Song Dynasty, including Bei Song and Nan Song, is considered to be quite weak in terms of political and military power, while reaching the peak in cultural development. Since its beginning in 960, the empire was under the constant threat from the northern nomads in this area. In 1127, to speak about the humiliation that was referred, a Jurchen power in the north took over Kaifeng, the capital, the Northern Song Dynasty, and took two of the dynasty's emperors, Huizong, who retired at the time, and his son effectively took both of them to the north. So he essentially captured the two emperors, the retired one and the contemporary one at the time, to the Jurchen's territory, effectively ended Northern Song dynasty. That was in the year of 1127, and pushed the Chinese to the south of Yangtze River. And that's where the Southern Song dynasty in the south was established. Both emperors ended up died under Jurchen's capture years later, never returned to the land of Song. And the Southern Song dynasty started and in a much smaller territory and lasted for another 150 years, about that time, until it was ended by the Mongols, also from the north. So you could, this is a very brief history of the time that Li Qingzhao, or the empires Li Qingzhao was born into. And the key point here, it's too generalization of that, I understand, but I just want to speak, circling back, while it's politically and militarily weak, culturally it was thriving. Perhaps the life of Huizong Zhaoji, the captured emperor, makes a point that despite the military weakness of the empire, culturally it is thriving. This painting is by the very emperor himself, and it's on display at the Met. Zhu Qingtu, this is part of Zhu Qingtu, and he himself is a highly regarded artist, but often considered not a very good emperor. This I just want to show quickly because this is only in a part, but if you go to even the website of the Met, you will be seeing more details, not only in the stamps, but also the calligraphy, which was extraordinary by Zhao Mengfu, added, well, also with other great calligraphers in later time. This is an extraordinary piece, and it's hardly, when you look at this piece, how highly regarded Huizong is and was, and well, picturing how the art under his patron was thriving during the time. And of course, while we have looked at this before, this is Qingming Shanghe Tu by Zhang Zeduan along the river during the Qingming festival. Not only it's an extraordinary painting, but it really is an evidence showing the fast urbanization of cities during Song dynasty. You could see the vendor. This is only also a part of this painting. It's in the Forbidden City Museum in Beijing. But you can really zoom into this painting and see the vendors, the donkeys, the sedan that's being carried across the river, and all the different stores. And if you go to the Palace Museum website, you will be able to see more of this extraordinarily long scroll that showing the fascinating details of the urban life. If I can show that, we will see the details. Otherwise, let's see why it does not. Otherwise, we can come back to this and see some of the more details in the river under the bridge. Quickly see. Yeah, it's not coming up. And another example I want to show is meanwhile, the fine art, especially the it started before Song Dynasty, but this is the time that's also much matured. And this is a famous piece by Fan Kuan, the travelers among mountains and streams, the shan shui, the landscape painting, not only matured around this time, but also achieved its peak, and started the tradition that not only the professional artists or the painters paint this kind of paintings, but also the literati scholars, well, they really form that kind of culture to produce highly regarded paintings, and well, developed into another genre that's combined the paintings and the poetry together. So, and this one is in the National Palace Museum in Taipei. These two pieces, one in the Forbidden City Museum in Beijing, and this other piece in Taipei. Well, speaking about the split between the North and the South, well, it has a long tradition or history in China. And if you go to the Taipei National Palace Museum, you will be able to zoom in and see a lot of the details. This is also just extraordinary. Details on the website. I just hope I didn't see this piece come to the United States or other areas, but some of the audience may know more. And please, well, when we get to discuss, we can share the stories. So Li Qingzhao was born right into the major disruptor of the Song Dynasty. She lived right through this 1127 after her early years, living quite leisurely in a family of learning and political power, and a loving marriage she enjoyed. Dramatic changes followed as she had to flee to the south. Like many families and people lived in the north, lost her families and belongings. She remarried after her husband died, and in fact got a divorce as she was unhappy with the second marriage, which was rather rare at the time. Personal tragedies aside, Li Qingzhao is nevertheless one of the best known poets in China's literary history. The Ci poem we are reading today is considered to be written before 1127. It does express some sorrow and sadness when one is longing for a loving companion, feeling lonely and missing someone who's far away, which I feel as well we are living through today's world and any other time. This is a universal feeling across time and cultures. So let's get into each line, and we will go through. So for new friends, the first line, the pinyin, second, the characters. The third line is the literal translation of each word. As you can see, together, they're not making perfect grammatic sense. And the last line is the poetic translation by Xu Yuanchong. I will do this twice. The first time, I will pause after each character, and you can repeat afterwards. And then the second time, I will pause after the line, and then we can repeat together. All right, I will start. 红
红
藕
藕
香
香
蚕
蚕
So just be careful. This C here, it's 丝蚕
蚕
玉
电
秋
秋
All right, I will pause. Second time, I will pause here. 红藕香蚕
红藕香蚕
很好。玉簟秋
玉簟秋
So here is also, it's I and U here, but there's really an O sound in it. So it's 秋 Very good. Yeah. 玉 All right. 青
青
解
解
罗长
长
读
读
上
上
蓝
周
周清解罗长
清解罗长
独上兰州
独上兰州
很好。云中水 Also here it's you, well, you and I in Chinese, it's wu and e, but there is a a sound in it. 水很好。季景来 Okay, this is a long line. I will do all together. 云中水记锦书来
云中水记锦书来
很好。Well, your pronunciations are so good. I may invite some of you to lead in the future. Next, 燕字为时燕字回时月满西楼月满西楼很好。花字飘零水自流 花自飘零，
花自飘零，
水自流。
水自流。
很好。
一
种
种
香
丝，
丝
一种相思。
一种相思，
两处闲愁，两处闲愁。
两处闲愁。
很好。So just to be careful, this E, it has like 3 different tones, depending on where it's depending on the tones of the following character.
Right.
By itself, the number is E, the first tone, and then if it's following by the third tone, it's E. 一种相思, the fourth tone. Yeah. In some other occasions, if it's followed by the fourth tone, it's the rising tone, second tone. 一个, for example, 一个, that's second tone. So in this case, it's 一种相思。
一种相思，两处闲愁。
很好。此情无计可交除，此情无计可消除。
此情无计可消除。
很好。才 remember this one, it's 才下眉头才下眉头却上心头才下眉头却上心头。So yeah, I just want to pause quickly. This I mentioned, well, there's more colloquial use of the language in the 词 form than in the classical Chinese 唐诗. So this could be an example, because well, 才下眉头却上心头, it's almost the same use as what we will use the language today in the daily conversation in Chinese. So these also, when you look at the 词 compared to 诗, these are some of the major differences. As well, you are learning more of Chinese language, you could sort of like tell the difference here.
这个上心是现在的上心。
Well, 上心 on its own can be a word. Yeah, it means, well, it's a colloquial way of like you pay attention, right? Yeah, be careful. But be careful, there's another word, 小心.
Oh yeah, that's right.
小心.
小心 means be careful.
Right, but 上心 you can also say Right. That's a different word. I can put it here. 小心, be careful. It's the same thing, but it's a different.
I know that one. 小心 be careful. 上心头, that means
that's 小 here. You almost feel like 小 means little. 小, you want to say something. Something is just you cannot let it go. It's like 上心. But here 却上心头, this is a verb here. It's like, well, to stay in your heart, stay on your mind. 才下眉头, 却上心头, referring to here, 此情, this feeling, 此情, this 情, you cannot drive it away from your mind. 才下眉头, 却上心头.
才下眉头, 却上心头.
And because of its more colloquial, this line actually is still quite widely quoted in China when people are talking about this kind of feeling. That, well, we actually will write a little bit. 深思两处闲愁, 此情, this feeling. What is the feeling? Now we have read the entire poem. That's what this poem is centered around, right? And I just want to give maybe 1 minute. Can anyone share how you feel? What is this feeling that's expressed in this poem? Anyone?
Well, somebody is definitely missing somebody else, it feels like.
Yep. 相思, missing someone. At least, well, at least the person who's missing feels the other person also misses her in this case. So there's a lot of a wider gap here in the form of 词. It usually has 2 segments or chapters. And the first called the upper chapter or 上阙. And we will get to write a character that related to this season. That's oftentimes the thriving season is over, is almost over. It's the harvesting time, but it's also right before winter comes. So the kind of sentimental feeling start to settling in. And then
could you explain about the 2 parts you just mentioned before we lost you?
Oh, sure. Yeah, so there is a gap in between, and then the top part is the upper chapter of the poem we call 上阙. And then the 上阙, and we have the lower part, and that's we call the lower chapter, and in Chinese it's 下阙. So typically in the 词 poem, you have 上阙, and then 下阙. And there is a notable change of the rhythm or the rhyme. In this case, it's pretty similar, but on the 上阙, there's a lot of descriptives of the different symbols still related to the season, and she's getting on this orchid boat and thinking about who is going to send the letters. Jinshu, it's always carried by Yan, the goose, the geese, the wild geese, and they are the message carriers. And also, and you look at the moon, and that's we covered some of the what the symbol of moon. It's in the sky, and you can see the same moon from different places. So it's not only, it often is related to some kind of the feminine characters, but also symbolizes, well, you can share something in the sky, that the human feelings is connected with the universe itself. And the Xia Que is more direct about her feelings. As starting with the flowers that is falling in the season of the autumn, and falling with the water that scatters the flowers, carries the flowers away. But more directly, it's the si, it's the missing, 一种相思, the same kind of longing to each other, missing each other, that, well, you have 两处 separated in two different places. And it's the 愁 here that it's not only just missing, and it's missing with some degree of sorrow. Not too extreme. That's why I tend to believe this poem was written before 1127, before her life tragedies started by the rupture of the empire. It's the kind of sorrow and missing that, well, she still was enjoying a leisurely life, very cultured, writing. She's a great painter and calligrapher herself, and her husband was an important official, but also very much shared the knowledge, the search for the cultural life with her. And the husband himself is an expert in Chinese bronzes and the inscription. So they shared a lot of these, not only in the interest, the personal interest, but also had a lot of collected. They're both great collectors, which they lost many of their collections when they fled from the north to the south. So this one, even though there's sorrow, there's missing, but it's not extreme. Her later, if you look at Wu Linchun, the one that Lin Laoshi shared at the beginning, that one was more, so much more, I would say, deeper and sad to the extreme. So I do not want to repeat that again, because I think this is good. This is Chou. This is something that we relate, and we don't want to go that deep and extreme degree as of yet. And then,
may I ask, were those two forms part of the original rhyme that you mentioned? That is, you mentioned that the form may have come from Central Asia. And if so, was the original structure in two parts like that? I mean, if the manuscript were written in the old way, there would be no punctuation. You'd have to figure out how many characters per line, and which was part one and which was part two.
right.
You're telling this because you know it, but if you didn't know the poem, how would you, is it too much of a problem to figure out? I'm sorry, I'm not very clear, but I'm trying to figure out how you know it is a 词 when you see it, because the structure is so uneven.
Thank you, Miaolian, Marilyn. No, it's a perfectly great question. And when, for example, as a Chinese, when I'm looking at this, first of all, the irregularity of this poem would instantly tell me that it's not a shi, the quatrain or the regulated verses, or even the antique form of shi, gu shi, because usually they are the even number of characters in each line. And of course, in old times, there's no punctuation. But while you would understand, you would see in terms of the meaning and to find the pause in the line. Because even like if you look at a calligraphy piece, there's no punctuation. Even today, for calligraphers, well, when they write a poem, when they copy a poem, they would not add the punctuations. So it's really by understanding the characters, the meanings, to be able to find the pause. And in fact, in old times, it might be for the students, you may need to learn a lot and get into the understanding more in order to find the pause, where to stop the line. For example, here and here, to be able to understand these forms. And sometimes there would be debate, actually, even today for some of the tunes, whether it should be stopped here or somewhere else. It's not too common, but it's still, because of the punctuation was added later, so there's always some ambiguity there. Also, the tune, 一剪梅, this kind of title is not the title of this poem, it's the title of the tune. So when you look at these tunes, there are altogether more 825 of them, as well we collect. There may be a little bit more or less. But well, these are fixed titles. When you look at these titles, you know that this is a 词. So when Xu Yuanchong did the translation here, he had to add tune, a twig of Mume Blossoms. This is not the title Li Qingzhao gave to her poem. This is the tune itself, and that's a very much a way of telling this is 词. As to the 上阙 and 下阙, that's a good question. I actually don't know when the 上阙 and 下阙started, and that could be also added later, as well. These tunes are pretty much fixed, and these are the lyrics for the music that later, when the poets are writing just for the sake of poetry, not for really following as the lyrics for songs, they may add the structure to make it more sort of regulated. Yeah.
Can I just mention that about 10 minutes ago, when you read the first stanza with the geese flying, I am sitting here on the coast of Maine, and in front of my window, about 100 wild geese flew by while we were reading that.
Wow. Thank you for sharing.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what's the word? Serendipity? Is that a good word?
Serendipity.
Serendipity. Yeah. Thank you. So is that the geese, which direction are they flying? Are they flying to the south?
From north to south. So I'm facing the ocean, and the geese came from the north, and there were literally 100 of them flew right by my window.
And then that's a good line. Now, you have that picture in your mind in front of you, and then it's 雁字回时，月满西楼. You only need the moon there.
Right.
So we have a few minutes. I just want to get into one character we're going to practice today. And can you guess? Or if you were to choose a character, which one?
Yeah.
We had we actually learned quite a lot already. We did Si, we did Qing, and we did Hua, and we actually did Jing, right? So if there is a word, one word, we can only write one word. Which one would you?
Chou.
Chou.
Toe for head, yeah.
Anybody? Anyone else? 大家都选丑吗? Yeah, actually, you're right. That's my choice too. Chou. This is, so this Chou is the current form, the Kaishu. And
we can't see
yes?
a PowerPoint.
Oh, that's so. Can you? Hold on. Did you lose me again?
No, we can hear you.
Just,
and
I lost the PowerPoint. Okay.
yes.
Oh, I see.
You are back.
Oh, so you were just listening to me this entire time? Oh.
没有.
Oh, okay, good. So this is the character we are choosing. Chou. Now, is it good?
Yeah.
Chou. Yeah.
You can see Chou now on the screen.
We can see Chou. 我们可以看见 Chou. And this is the current form. And in Xu Sheng's time, 100 AD, and this is from the first etymology book in China. And this is how Chou in small seal form is written. And you can see there are, well, 3 parts. We have this part on the top, 2 parts together, left and right. And then we have the bottom. And we have learned actually all these separated elements, right? The bottom, it's what is the bottom?
Heart.
The heart.
对的, very well. Yeah, it's the Xin part. And that's the Xin today. And when we learned the character I, we know the Xin is there to love. And also the character for Qing, we have another transformed Xin part. And the top part, what is the top part?
Qiu.
It's Qiu. It's
That
Qiu.
means Qiu.
Exactly. Well, the Qiu, even in Xu Sheng's book, he said, Qiu is for the pronunciation, for the sound of this entire character. It is now pronounced Chou, very close to Qiu. Yeah, but in fact, because Chou, the meaning of Chou is to express some kind of sorrow, sadness. You have something heavy in your heart. And Qiu as a season itself is generating that kind of feeling. So the reason that this is in this character Chou is not just for the sake of pronunciation. It also speaks to the meaning of it. And just a quick review, the oracle bone, the very earliest form of Qiu is literally looking like an insect. The insects for the season that are maybe dying everywhere. That's the noticeable phenomena for the ancient Chinese who created this character. And in Xu Shen's book, actually, Xu Shen's time, there is a more complex form. And this is the more complex form of Qiu. You can start to see these two parts. This is the plants or the crops that has matured and ready to be harvested. See, the top is not going straight up as in the summer. It's actually falling down because with the heavy either fruits or wheat, or grains, it's hanging there. And then you have the fire on the side. And in this case, it's at the bottom, because the autumn season, you also burn the field and getting ready for the next season. And in this more complex form, you still have the insect here, the profile of the insect. And eventually the character Qiu becomes this, looks exactly like the one in the character Chou. So with that, let's get to write this character. It's more fun that way we draw it together. I'm getting my pen, and Lin Lao Shi, if you could share the 写字板. We will start with the ancient form, and I can write from the, so I'm still following the stroke order from the top to the bottom, and then from the left to the right. So let's start with this fire. And then we have this, and I'm finishing up here. And then the right part, this is the crop or some kind of matured plant ready to be harvested. Yeah, I think I really love this detail that's showing it's the autumn season. It's something that's ready to be collected at the end of the season. So it's both a sense of fulfilling, but also the sadness started to settle in, because at the peak, it's also the time that the path is only going down after the peak. Now the bottom part, the heart. It's very pictographic for the heart part. You have the and then the vine coming out. And that's my toe here. Yeah, it's a little unbalanced to the left and the right. And for the small seal style, some of you may have seen and like the running style, the cursive style. It's pretty. You have to use the strength differently, and the sizes are quite different. But for small seal, it's more emphasizing on the balance. Each line is you have to use your own strength to keep it even and balanced. So I'm not too happy with this part, but with practice it can be better. All right, maybe we can do another one, the current form, which is very close, just flipped the crop and the fire, and written in a way that is more with more straight line. I know we have already passing the time. If you have to leave, I will see you next session. But here, let's start from the top, a little slant, and then this is a slightly bigger. Yeah. And then the fire part. And then the bottom is the heart. Start again from the left. And then finish with the 2 dots. Yeah, that's the regular form, Chou.
Oh,
That's our session today. 你们的愁写得怎么样? Did you finish yours? You can show me. Thank you, Xiaoan. Yeah, it's a good word, even though well, we have all different feelings and emotions associated with this. Thank you, Willa.
Thank
Yeah.
you. The oldest
Yeah.
form is really amazing with the insect. That's so such a surprise.
Right. Yeah. It's when I was looking into this etymology, I was also there's a connection that I have to make because while looking at the image of the insect, I would really think that's the time when you burn the field, the insects are dying before the winter comes, and also when the fields were burned, you may see them trying to survive for the very last bit, and that's the sound. That's the sound of the season. So in traditional Chinese literary culture and in history, autumn is always associated with this complex feeling of harvesting. Melancholy, exactly. Yeah. So yeah, so it's great.
Sad.
Sorry, say it again.
Slightly sad, so it's melancholy. Kind of a downbeat.
Exactly. Yeah. Alrighty, so that's our session today.